Educate Maine is a business-led education advocacy organization, and our work spans pre-K through post-secondary. We run programs including Project Login, which is a program created by 7 CEOs in the state of Maine, along with the university system and several private colleges, to double the number of post-secondary degrees in CS, IT, and computer engineering in 4 years. We also run the Maine Teacher of the Year program, which is a statewide recognition program for public school education teachers. And lastly, we have a pretty robust policy and advocacy program, which really, quite frankly, spans early childhood through post-secondary. We issue our education indicators report each year, as well as hold a symposium, and then do a lot of work with high-leverage policymakers in Augusta, where we do legislative retreats on any number of education issues, as well as work with a number of stakeholder groups, including the professional organizations and some of our key business groups, including the state chamber, to inform and educate the business community, as well as our policymakers on education issues. Our board is made up of 2/3 business and 1/3 educators, and our funding comes from a broad array of sources, including several prominent regional and statewide foundations, and then about 50% of our funding comes from corporations both in and outside of Maine. I think if you take a look at Project Login, you notice that we spend a lot of time focusing on pathways to particular careers, and giving students, parents, educators information about how to make the best choices to get to the career that they want. And we start at middle school and go all the way up through community college on to post-secondary degrees. So I think we have to do two things: inform students about the potential careers that are available here in Maine, and then show them how they can get to those careers. And again, there are multiple pathways to get there, but we have to provide that information so they can get there most quickly, most efficiently, and hopefully most economically. I think in addition, if you take a look at our post-secondary indicators and our indicators report, what you'll see is that we provide 3 different indicators that, quite frankly, provide good consumer information, both in terms of on-time college graduation as well as college cost and student debt. Both really huge barriers and important indicators in terms of whether students are getting their degrees, how long it takes them to get their degrees, and also the cost, whether the cost be within Maine or outside of Maine, also whether or not a student chooses to go to the community college, to private or public. We provide all of that information, which I think is huge in choosing which field to go down. Educate Maine is a business-led education advocacy organization, and at our core, we believe that business really needs to support education. And you can see that when you look at our board. Our board is made up of 2/3 business, 1/3 educators. So we really rely on those educators to be our experts, including former Commissioner Duke Albanese. At the same time, we know that business has much to contribute in terms of talking about the skills that they need and working in partnership with educators both at the high school level and at the community college and university system level. So one of the things that I think would surprise some is that most of our business leaders actually talk about the guiding principles in Maine's learning results, which are the soft skills, the critical thinking skills, are most important. It's almost more important than a particular degree. And what we hear from business leaders is that if in fact they come with those skills, that they can train them to do any work. But clearly, our high school and college level educators have an opportunity to help develop those critical thinking skills for our students. Educate Maine believes very strongly that data is important and that data needs to drive almost everything that we do, if not everything. And our education indicators report, we hope, is not controversial. Those 10 indicators, for educators, they're not controversial. Those are measurements that are used throughout the education pipeline, from early childhood through post-secondary. But we didn't necessarily feel that the public, as well as the business community, had access to that information. So what we tried to do was to provide information in a clear, easy-to-use, engaging way. And that's why you see some of the infographics and some of the hopefully bright colors throughout that report is to not just engage with policy wonks, but quite frankly, to engage with the larger public. We believe that the more information students have, and parents have for that matter, the more likely they are to succeed. And when you take a look at some key indicators such as on-time college completion, college cost and student debt, those are really important pieces of what we see as the larger post-secondary puzzle, which is which schools are most likely to get their students through most quickly, which directly relates to student cost, as well as remediation levels. You know, if a school's having to spend a lot of time and energy on remediating their students, does that mean they're really going to be able to move through quickly? Again, the more information students and parents have, the more accurate and appropriate decisions they can make for their families.